First, there was a snow ghost on top of a silver mountain. Now that ghost is your community host. A snow ghost wants to get the most out of you. 'Cause a better world begins with you. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to the world's loudest, most award-winning talk show host, the Bruce Russell!
Thank you.
How's it going, Bruce?
Well, pretty endless rotting.
I'm very excited about the topic of today's show.
Me too.
What is the topic?
How do you find to become a zombie? And we're talking about the Night of the Living Dead.
And we're talking about how to become a zombie?
Yeah.
How do you become a zombie?
I don't know, must have looked himself in the mirror and probably made a spectacle out of himself.
Well, actually, Bruce, it's good you brought up how to become a zombie because there are two different ways, two schools of thought on that issue.
All right.
One of them is you get bit by zombies, or you just die a natural death and you become one.
All right.
And then the other is that it's a virus.
All right.
And if it's a virus...
Yeah, one thing about the virus, I heard it's very viable.
There you are.
It's also very valuable.
The 28 days and 28 weeks says it's a virus. But that's not traditional thinking about zombies.
Well, actually, I think the traditional, like Haitian zombies would be people who were drugged or had some sort of other physical thing done to them so that they were just in sort of a stupor, though.
Yeah,
right?
but those are weak-kneed zombies. They don't eat people. Those are like zombies light. When Romero made the Night of the Living Dead, he opened it up to a whole different thing. The freshly dead are all zombies, and they're all cannibals.
Yeah, but you know, in that movie, though, those zombies were like kind of in the tune of the Haitian zombie, though, because they couldn't really do anything. Like the great shot of the guys just picking off zombies across a field. Because the zombies were slow, they were homicidal, but they weren't like really a threat to you unless they were very close to you and you were unarmed.
Well, the same could be said about the mummy. The poor dude's got his arms up. He moves really sluggishly, whatever. The blob is also slow, but they're relentless. They don't stop.
The mummy can also destroy stuff. We were just watching The Mummy's Curse, and these people, somehow they're unable to flee from the mummy. Like they get caught with a locked door or something. And there's all these other doors between them and the mummy is able to just sort of systematically bash his fist. Whereas the zombie is not that persistent.
That's right. Zombies can't climb ladders, and zombies don't... Yeah, that's true. Zombies have their limitations, but all monsters, all respectable monsters, right, Bruce, have their weaknesses.
The only way to kill a zombie, but the only way to kill a zombie is... The only way you can kill a zombie is you take a bullet to the brain.
That's right. That's right. You can cut off their arms and they'll keep coming. You can shoot them in the abdomen, they'll keep coming.
Yeah, no less they had an Adam's apple.
That's right. Well, I don't know about that, Bruce.
So our guest today on the show, we should mention, is Scott Schaefer Duffy.
Hey, thanks for coming down here, Scott.
Oh, Bruce, anytime.
Hey, Scott, thanks for coming down, Scott.
It's a privilege, Bruce. It's a privilege.
Thanks for coming down, Scott.
I'm glad to come down, Bruce.
I'm glad you come down, Scott.
Bruce, am I down?
Hey, I don't know. Are you
I thought I'd come down, Bruce. It's always an experience, Bruce. Surreal and real.
Right.
What do you think was your first exposure to zombie lore?
Well, if you're talking about lore, I would say The Night of the Living Dead. I saw that in school and college. And
I thought you meant like school, like high school or something.
No, saw that in college.
Maybe in health class.
And then shortly thereafter, saw the other Romero films, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and then the most recent series. And I actually had the privilege of seeing the play, The Night of the Living Dead, down in Sturbridge.
What kind of play is this? Is it like a musical play, or is it a...
No, and I thought it actually is the Romero story, only they changed the ending. And at the risk of spoiling somebody else's enjoyment of seeing this play sometime...
Give people a warning. Turn your TV
turn
off
your TV off
30
now,
seconds.
so you don't hear the end, because it's against the movie and play code to spoil the end, but they take a much darker turn. Where
Wait a second. At the end of the... correct me if I'm wrong, at the end of The Night of the Living Dead, our hero gets mistaken for a zombie and is killed.
Yes, but he's only the hero. The rednecks seem to be prevailing. In fact, they show newspaper clippings, which means the society is still functioning. At the end of the play, they have radio broadcasts coming in during the play that there are centers that people should go to, and they gradually say, these are overwhelmed. And at the end of the play, not only is the hero killed, but the rednecks come, and the zombies overwhelm the rednecks and kill everyone, and the last character takes the final solution.
He kills himself.
She
kills herself.
Yeah.
Why does she do that, do you think?
So she doesn't become one.
Do you think it's fun being a zombie?
Oh, that was raised by Shaun of the Dead. That is an important issue that's already been fleshed out. Do you see Shaun of the Dead, Bruce?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he gets to play Game Boy at the end. He still seems to be...
He doesn't get to eat human brains, which is kind of... That's one thing about being a zombie. One thing is probably you have very few desires, but like the one desire that you do have to eat human brains, if you were in a thing like at the end of Shaun of the Dead, you couldn't actually fulfill your desire because people would have you kind of restrained.
Well, it seems to me that zombies retain more humanity than the people that become taken over by the pod people in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where they're just sort of like a part of the Borg.
But the people who are the pod people, aren't they being replaced by aliens? So they actually are aliens?
Yeah, but they keep the same outside of themselves.
Right. But so the zombies actually was a person at some point.
Well, yes,
it may look less and less like a person as time goes on, but it's the core of the zombie.
And the question of can a zombie be cured is still an open question. Some films have started to look at that, but it's not yet explored. Do you think a zombie can be cured, Bruce?
No.
No, you don't think so?
No.
Bullet to the head is the only solution?
Yeah.
Well, all problems could be solved. Maybe medicine could find an answer.
Well, maybe the other way you could probably... If you can probably have enough time to react, if you have to think kind of intelligently and react on this kind of fast, probably the other way you can stop a zombie instead of a bullet to the brain is probably either drink all his blood or watch it flow out of his system.
Well, Bruce, you said the right thing. You have to think intelligently, and that's important. That's very important.
And you have to react fast.
You do. And you haven't even read the Zombie Survival Guide, but that book really explains all the precautions you have to take. And every horror movie that you see, every self-respecting horror movie, gives you something, a valuable lesson for life.
But one important valuable too. Oh, you know the way you can protect yourself from a zombie? Get yourself a zombie-proof vest.
Zombie-proof vest.
So if somebody shoots zombies at you, they'll just bounce harmlessly off.
See, Bruce, you're thinking of the traditional zombie, a zombie-proof vest. But in 28 Weeks Later, there is a scene where a drop of blood from a zombie falls in a man's eye, and he instantaneously, 30 seconds, becomes a zombie. See, the new movies, they move fast, and you become a zombie instantly.
The new Mummy movies is the same way, where the mummies are suddenly these...
Yes, and that's a commentary on our culture. Everything's fast.
That's just like that movie with Donald Pleasant about the Prince of Darkness, where they're in they go to that abandoned church, and there's like this big, kind of looks like a lava lamp. It's down in the cellar of the church.
I know that movie.
And it's like it's dripping out there, and it's just like turns. And it's supposed to be like a liquid form of Satan. And someone gets this shot in the eye. A woman gets shot in the eye. There's a bunch of like college students come in and try to check this. Like,
wait a second, it's a liquid form of Satan?
Yeah.
You haven't seen this film?
You got to see this, man. You got to see this, man.
How do they manufacture a liquid form of Satan? How do
it comes out of liquid. It's in a green liquid. I mean, how do you liquefy vomit after you get it on yourself?
It is liquid. It's vomit.
All right.
But Satan is not naturally liquid in his normal state, is he?
Oh, yeah.
Well, how many films have you seen that actually showed Satan? This film had the nerve.
I've seen a lot of movies that show Satan.
Well, I'm not talking about, who is it that played Satan?
Devil's Advocate.
Devil's Advocate. That's true. But no, this one he reaches out at one point.
In the Ninth Gate.
Oh God, you devil.
Yeah. Donald Pleasance knows about Satan because he dealt with all the Friday the 13th movies and everything. Mm-hmm. But to get back to the zombies, though, the zombie movies make a lot of commentary. Dawn of the Dead, it's well known. It's looking at people in the malls going around as zombies, and of course there's Is that Dawn of the Dead? I believe it's Dawn of the Dead.
You're right.
Yeah, and now that's even being used as a demonstration against consumerism. People are going in grocery stores, or not grocery stores, in places like Walmart and just acting like zombies. Mm-hmm. So it's actually a form of social protest.
There is always a lot of message in the zombie movies.
There is. There's things about despair, because of course the people trapped in the house in a lot of these movies, or in the bunker or wherever.
This is like
they're the enemy too, because they get at each other. They make mistakes that cause the problem to get worse.
One valuable point.
Yes?
I got the 1968 black and white version of the original version of Night of the Living Dead.
Which you watched today this morning.
But they have a colored version where they don't show this in the original, the black and white version. The woman goes to this abandoned farmhouse, which is she does in the black and white one. But when she looks up the stairs, there's a big, above the banister, there's like a railing on the top of the stuff, at the top of the floor upstairs. And she looks over, there's like this big pool of blood, and it's like his hand just falls on top of her. They don't show that in the black and white version.
See, the things you miss out. You got to get the DVD box set so you get all the deleted scenes.
Yeah, that sounds pretty devious.
All these different things. Well, when you talked a second ago, Mike, and you, of course, Bruce, you don't have to be educated about this because you're the snow ghost and you know all these things. The Zombie Survival Guide. I can't recommend it enough. People have to have it. It's a great book.
Do they have it at the library?
The present copy is missing.
Ah.
These are very popular books. People need to have it.
Maybe the book itself is undead, lurching around the shelves. Somewhere.
Well, you sometimes can get the oral history of the zombie wars, which has a lot of the same wisdom.
Okay.
But it tells you different key things to do. The things that you can do about the traditional zombies, not the fast ones.
Like board up your house with doors and.
Well, they give you a lot of different things you can do and ways in which you can, make the survival. And in the oral history of the zombie wars, different countries take different policies. One country kills every 10th person, shoots anybody at the border, is very draconian. Other countries, it's more, they keep democracy alive and they're still compassionate and so on. And it's raising this question, how are people going to respond in a crisis when things break apart? And I was in Bosnia during that war, and these films are not so far from reality. When things break down, it's amazing to see how some people rise up and they behave really well, they're great, they keep their values. Other people, boy, it's just like... it's like primitive times. All of a sudden.
I kind of had my own two experiences about zombie flicks.
Zombie flicks, not actual zombies.
Well, actually zombies. I experienced my own zombie, my two zombie sites. The first one is like, I used to work at, it was back in, I want to say early to mid 60s, we used to work as a gravedigger in England, just outside, kind of like in the town where my parents were from and whatever, and that's how it became my fear of death. And there was the other place too. There was this old boarded up house that we all used to go down there and hang out. That this guy used to own, and it was like there was like things were like moving around upstairs and stuff like that, and it all these like noises coming in. It was like a zombie was like supposedly like in this house and things like that. So I was like so desperate. I was like, let's go find him. I want to meet this guy. Let's shake his hand.
Wait, there was a zombie in the boarded up house?
Yeah.
Like there had been a zombie and they finally got him in there and then they boarded it up and they were like,
yeah,
that's how we're going to deal with the problem.
That's the containment response. But England, according to 28 Weeks Later, is the center of zombies.
Right.
According to the oral history of zombies, they come from China.
All right.
But it's essentially hard to tell. It was animal rights activists that are the culprit in 28 Weeks Later.
Hey, you remember that
Asian? Sort of a right-wing agenda there.
Well,
remember that Asian movie called The
wait a
Undead?
second. It's either animal rights activists or it's bioweapons researchers, depending on how you see the cause and effect there.
That's true.
Who is it that's torturing monkeys and giving them deadly, deranged diseases in facilities that have poor security?
Okay, so it's a left-wing agenda.
It is a left-wing agenda.
Yeah,
well, if you look at 28 Days Later, there's a strong message in there about how violence is counterproductive. And where you see this is with the soldiers who have their little compound, right? And 3 civilians get in there with them, and they're like, we're gonna accept you into our compound, but we're going to rape the 2 women in exchange for protecting you, right?
So these films are essentially pacifist.
Well, and that's what, they're not essentially pacifists, but they do show the chain of violence. Because these soldiers who are killing the zombies, which you could say, okay, that's fine, we can draw a strong line between zombies and humans, maybe. Maybe it's an artificial line, some people would argue, but we could draw that line. But whenever they turn around and say, and so we're also going to prey on other people, that's when they get bit in the ass, because that's what gets the 3rd human to escape from their compound and come back Rambo style and execute.
But I had to bring this up. There's actually 2 points. You saw that movie, that Asian movie, I think it was an Asian movie or a Japanese movie called The Undead, where there was all the zombies like attacking a village somewhere in Asia or somewhere like that. And there was another part too, but see, people don't realize this too. And this is another possibility too, that I think that what creates zombies and what makes zombies more resistant. I think everybody in there has some kind of like chemicals in their liquid in their bodies that performs people in their like ourselves for that sense that to turn into zombies.
Well, according to Max Brooks in the Oral History of the Zombie Wars, the zombies go on forever. They're under the ocean, walking around more or less forever. And 28 weeks later and 28 days later, the zombies, if they're denied their food source, eventually they starve to death. So you contain them and they eventually they drop dead. But I think Mike's point is a good one, though, is that violence doesn't stay in a box. You authorize killing zombies like the rednecks in the first movie kill zombies. Well, they kill the hero. They ultimately kill the hero.
Would you consider Army of Darkness a zombie movie?
Yes. Well, they're kind of possessed because he can't remember Klaatu Narada.
What about Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2? Those are both zombie flicks, aren't they?
In a sense, they're demons. There's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, well,
fine films all, yes.
Reanimator?
Reanimator. Oh, no, now you're dealing in another area. That's more the Frankenstein thing. Science tinkering, which came from the 28 Days Later, too.
Okay.
Scientists messing around with things they should leave better left alone.
Or that they should at least have good security. That's what, again, I just want to point out that if a bunch of people break into your bioweapons facility,
I want to get back to Scott's...
it's your responsibility to secure that facility.
I want to get back to Scott's question, back to Scott's thing. So when you went to go see the Night of the Living Dead play, what would you think? What was your first reaction when you saw it? I mean,
I thought it was too grim.
What do you mean?
I mean, the reason I like the zombie survival guide, and the reason I like the first Dawn of the Dead as opposed to the second Dawn of the Dead is it gives people hope.
Mm-hmm. When you say
the person that's thinking of killing themselves in the first Dawn of the Dead jumps on the helicopter and the movie concludes, again, turn off your set, it concludes with the man on the beach in a desert island and they're okay. Well, in the updated version, which maybe it's indicating the despair of today, they get to the island is swarmed with, But
when you say grim, what do you mean by exactly where the grim?
Well, everyone being killed would be fairly grim in my book, Bruce. maybe you have a higher threshold.
I mean, how would you, wouldn't you say if it was grim, would you say it was kind of like Grimoire or something like that?
Well, the nice thing about a really good monster movie is the monster has to have his day. And the monster has to be dominant, especially against the people that are making fatal flaws, mistakes, foolish things. They have to get eaten. They have to get destroyed, the people that are unwise. But the wise, the good, the whatever, except for a few tragic characters that have to die to keep the thing interesting and keep you on your edge of your seat. It's nice to see some of them win. I mean, this is America, after all. The American film is, my wife likes to get European films, and in every European film, the hero dies at the end, preferably by suicide. And in the American films, they win. That's just the way American films are. And call it Horatio Alger, call it whatever. Most people watching these things would like to see, they'd like to see that hump. They like to see the tenseness and whatever.
Somebody overcoming adversity.
Yeah, and it's okay if they don't overcome adversity in the first part of a trilogy. That's okay. Move it along and keep us on the edge of the seat like Perils of Pauline, and eventually set things straight. Put the zombies.
Is that movie that play that kind of make you feel uncomfortable? Did it kind of scare you or what?
Well, what was uncomfortable is the zombies were only 4 feet away. It's a very small theater.
I mean, does it kind of keep you on the edge of your seat though?
Yeah, it did that. I mean, the gore was...
Was there parts when you jumped, though?
Oh, yes. Oh, certainly. I jump at the theater all the time. I always bring a baseball hat, too, for scenes that are too scary. You can slide it down a little bit. But no, definitely, it had me on the edge of the seat. But I think that this is... the number of films, especially the number of films that have come out lately, indicate this is a really enduring horror genre.
Well, the thing about the zombie movie... I would compare it a little bit to the vampire movie, for example. Vampire and zombie movies very similar. You have these contagious monsterisms. But the vampire thing, as people have often pointed out, has a lot of sexual baggage, a lot of sexual metaphor and whatever.
Just like Dracula.
Just like Dracula.
And ambiguity about homosexuality.
And ambiguity about a lot of things. So
Will the male vampire bite a male?
Right.
Only in the Spanish version do you see that of Dracula. You don't see it in the English version.
Right. So there's this eroticism, which itself is maybe enough that a vampire movie, by definition, has some kind of baggage. The zombie movie, being a little bit more stripped down, definitely there's not a sexual thing in your mainstream zombie movie.
In mainstream society either.
Well, but I mean, so the zombie movie seems like it's much more comfortable taking up a little bit more explicit of a moral lesson, as in your Night of the Living Dead, as in your
Dawn of the
28 Days
Dead.
Later, as in your Shaun of the Dead.
And
All of
Dawn
them
of the
have
Dead.
all of these have a lot of satire or commentary, but it doesn't feel like it's too much. Whereas maybe if you made I don't know if I've ever seen a vampire movie that had a big political, that was trying to raise political questions. The vampire movies that I think of as even the more unconventional ones, I don't see as having an explicit commentary.
I think the only vampire movie I saw that really scared the bejesus out of me was the movie called Thirst, and Louise Fletcher was in that movie. Of course, she did a lot of other movies like Nightmare on the 13th Floor, and she did Two Flowers in the Attic and
One Floor of the Cuckoo's Nest.
Did you see Interview with the Vampire?
Yes.
I mean, that movie they tried to make. They made a little bit of an attempt to humanize the vampire, and of course, in Shaun of the Dead, that's the only zombie movie where they deal with the issue of what are we going to do with zombies afterwards, and they make the compassionate decision to make them shopping cart people, and to have them in in different menial jobs, and they preserve them, and that was kind of an interesting commentary because it wasn't just automatically we're going to kill all these things.
It's like, what can we do with these?
What can we do with these?
Once we sort of get the upper
and that's the can-do American thing too, even though it's a British film.
Well, and that's but again, that gets back to the traditional Haitian idea, which is a zombie is somebody who you've done something to, and now you have a docile field hand. So it's actually sort of a traditional thing, which is like, this zombie could be useful to us. Whereas a vampire, again, I don't know that you ever have any vampires or mummies or anything like that you ever.
Well, if you get into Anne Rice's book, the vampires are full of angst about what is their being, do they have a purpose, is there any salvation? They're filled with all kinds of angst. That angst really takes away from me from the from the horror.
That was one thing about vampires. I wonder if like someone that's like, or have to be vegetarian or vegans.
I think that's been done. Isn't there a
Vegan
kids
vampires?
books? Aren't there kids books about like, what am I thinking? The carrot stalks, the celery stalks at midnight. Is that the name of the book about the vampire rabbits?
Well, the vegan zombie's not going anywhere.
Well, there's a vegan.
I can tell you that right now.
There's a movie called The Bats about the vampire bats out in Texas. Remember that, Scott? We saw that movie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I want to interrupt and bring it back to zombie stuff because, Scott Schaefer, you have a lot of strong ethical opinions. You also have a lot of experience in different sort of, as you mentioned before, zones around the world where there's tension and issues going on. What do you think of as a strategy for dealing with zombies? If the city of Worcester, and people have pointed out, I think in the Blank Canvas magazine, that Worcester would be a great city to survive zombie attack in because the three-decker home versus, say, a ranch-style home is much less accessible. So a lot of our housing stock is a great, you can seal off the first floor and live okay on most of it. But anyway, what's the strategy?
First, people have got to be literate. They've got to read the Decameron. They've got to read Camus' The Plague. They've got to read these books about other crisis situations and realize division and self-interest are not good solutions. Building up walls, keeping out people, not being hospitable, they're not good solutions because ultimately somebody's going to catapult a plague victim over your walls because of the bitterness. You're going to end up divided with each other. You've got to keep your values intact.
So actually, Worcester's success in dealing with people who are experiencing homelessness or addiction or whatever is actually maybe comes into play whenever we do a zombie
compassionate
attack.
cities are going to fare better than cities where people are, if you're out for yourself alone, you can't make it. You can't make it. A person by themselves alone that doesn't give a darn about anybody else is ultimately going to be harmed not only by the zombies, but by the conflict between other human beings. Mm-hmm. So we have to be united. That's important. That's important for every crisis, whether it's a civil war, a flood, whatever. The people that are getting their own, saving their own family and running out, they're the ones that cause the traffic jams and and they don't even get themselves out. So that's an important, valuable lesson about the zombie thing is that, got to keep your values together. And if you look at Stephen King's new film, The Mist, you can't despair. That's another certain thing. In a variety of different science fiction and horror movies, you'll have the lesson. The characters will despair just before they should have, held on. Mm-hmm. Hold on a little bit longer.
Keep struggling.
Keep strong.
Keep the faith.
Right, what do you say, Bruce? Rock on? Be metal?
Just metal alone.
There it is. And during the disco years, were you playing disco, Bruce?
No, I still play metal and touring.
During the New Age years?
Oh, yeah.
Metal. Bruce, always the same. Now, ever. Semper Fi, Bruce.
The Bridges, as long as it's Bridges and black metal, because that's where the band was from and where I lived and where I keep on living.
Well, Hobbes said consistency is the hobgoblin of small minds. But there is something for consistency. Knowing, Bruce, I just know right where you are. People know where the Catholic worker is, where the pacifists are. They know where they are, where they stand. Mike's a vegan. You know where he is. It's comforting. All this ambiguity and you're changing values. I mean,
it's endless rotting.
Even if you have a strong-held moral principle, there's still plenty of ambiguity going on. There's still plenty of edge cases. There's still plenty of daily struggle.
You know what else is
It
going on?
doesn't make life necessarily simpler, I don't think.
You know what else is going on?
What's that?
Endless rotting.
Endless rotting.
Well, I wanted to mention that we have a guest, or a gift for our guest, as always, from the HBML Junk Shop, who's our underwriter. And what is the gift today, Bruce?
It's not a zombie, is it? Oh, Bruce.
Turn it around to face the camera.
You don't know what this means to me.
I don't know.
And by the way, happy birthday, Mike Leslie. My son's comic books are on sale. Anger Man. He's working someday on Peace Man. Which
Hey,
is
I got
the
one
next
thing to
issue.
say about this.
Yes.
It's barely possible.
It's unbearable, Bruce.
I think if you- I
It's
think if-
buried in the woods.
I think if you look at the bottom of that also, the feet there, you'll notice that this was made in by, what does it say?
Leominster, Massachusetts.
A.J. Renzi Corporation.
And made in Leominster. So this is not imported. This is not. You can't get this at Walmart.
Well, and
This is made here, homegrown, like
Leominster
buy
until-
homegrown fruit, by the way.
Leominster, until very recently, the capital of pink flamingo manufacturing. So I don't know if this is by the same facility or a related facility.
You know what else
But,
is homegrown?
It's
What?
definitely.
And marijuana.
There's another show, Bruce. There's yet another show. Amazing. Well, this is...
The show must go on.
It must. It must.
Well, do you guys have any last thoughts about... we should thank also our director, Anthony DiBenedetto. This is possibly his last episode of the show, and he's done a fantastic job supporting the community show and the community.
He's going out with a bang. This one will be viewed by people, and it'll be a guide in times of crisis. Right, Bruce?
That's right.
Any last thoughts about zombie issues, the living dead, eating brains?
Yeah, but one thing about the Night of the Living Dead, you never seen the Night of the Living Dead unless you watch it at night. The Dawn of the Dead, you're only supposed to watch it at dawn because it never really dawned on me until I watched it. I haven't really got to the ability to watch it during the dawn because it never really dawned on me.
So 28 days later, you can't watch them until 28 days later.
Well, right, you have to wait the 28 days. You have to watch it at the 28th day of the month.
You have to watch it every day for 28 days.
All right.
See, he has faith in the titles. Gone with
I mean, it's important to watch. I have to bring this up.
They
before
didn't give it that name for
I have
no
to bring
reason,
this up.
Scott.
Even to watch a movie, you have to watch the whole thing as many times as possible. Because to watch it in one, then you have no idea what the heck is going on.
Oh, Bruce, you are the greatest apostle. How many times have you seen Nightmare on the 13th Floor?
Oh, probably like 400 times.
And that's not an exaggeration. Probably more than 400.
Oh, I would say easily more than 400 times.
500 times?
Okay, that's...
I mean, well, how
My
many?
final offer, 600 times.
600. How many times have you seen me watching Ghost of Mississippi Chicken and you hear me laughing?
You watch that movie, you watch part of that movie every single day. It's like taking a shower. It's just like a part of
That
the
is a
routine.
fine film, actually.
Mostly at nighttime.
I have full vote of confidence for that film.
Because I watch it. Because every time I watch that movie, I'm watching that part when he goes to the house, and you're just coming in like 7 o'clock at night.
Well, Bruce, is there a final message that you have for the people of Worcester and the worldwide fans?
Well, we hope you
camera.
like this episode, and be ready for the next one.
Look at camera 2 and say it.
What's that?
Look at camera 2 and say it.
Well, hope to all the fans in Worcester and the worldwide fans, we hope you like this one and be watching for more. Until then, how the zombies are you?
First, there was a snow ghost on top of a silver mountain. Now that ghost is your community host. A snow ghost wants to get the most out of you. 'Cause a better world begins with you.